If you want to increase your ability to handle tough situations, handle emotionally driven situations, you gotta focus on your fitness. There is no doubt in my mind, I am a way better leader because I work out, because I lift weights, because I run, I do my cold plunge therapy.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Fitness CEO. I am the Fitness CEO, Bryce Henson. For our new subscribers, I want to welcome you to the show. And the theme of this episode is emotional resilience, which is just so mission critical for your personal growth, for your success, and your ability to lead your team. And when my team and I were putting together the content of this video, I was thinking back to my business journey. And I started my entrepreneurial experience just over 12 years ago from the time of this recording. Actually got things in motion in 2010, 2011 in terms of preparation. And I got struck by the fitness bug, went through an amazing transformation, just really, gave me so much passion for the fitness industry because it changed my life. And that's why I'm so passionate as the Fitness CEO today, communicating with you. And after I went through that transition, I knew that I was called. I wanted to, open something, create something where I could have impact on people's lives, and of course, make a lot of income in the process. And stumbled across Fit Body Bootcamp and the franchise system. And compared to where we are now, looking back, over a decade ago, just night and day. In fact, the time when I just opened the doors to Yorba Linda Fit Body, which is my first location. Yorba Linda is just a little town in Orange County, Southern California, just north of Disneyland. When I launched that business, I knew really very little about, marketing. I had some sales experience. I didn't know operation leadership. There's a lot of things I didn't know, and that's why I partnered with an awesome brand. But even for the brand at the time, we had just transitioned from a licensee program to a franchising model. So the level of structure and support, compared to what it is to now is just night and day difference. But I had the passion. I had my wife at my side, Tatiana, who had lived in the States before, but we had just been living in Brazil, where she's from. So she was rusty with her English. She hadn't lived in the States for quite some time. She had never been to California before, but I convinced her to come along with me and head back to California, where I had lived the previous 15 years. And we decided to launch this business. And we got off the ground. I'll never forget, we launched it November 5th, 2012. Probably not the best time to launch a fitness business, especially in North America, just as the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas and New Year's was approaching, when many people don't make fitness their focus during that time for obvious reasons. And I shared in a recent episode, I had a freak out moment, actually. The franchise business coach at the time, I called him. Turns out Bedros, my business partner and now, I guess, the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp, not now, always has been, but has launched many other entrepreneur opportunities since then. They came to my side, had a coaching conversation, and then got the business off the ground in the following few months after I launched. It took me about 6 months or so to fully realize that, hey, the ship was heading in the right direction. And in the early days, I trained every single session for the first few months. We had morning sessions, evening sessions, and at that period of time, I invested my life savings into this business, so I had very little additional, financial margin outside of that. So I kept my full-time sales job, and I had some flexibility. I worked from home, but really the first year of the business was just a grind. I would be up at 4 a.m, training sessions from 5 till 9 a.m., working out in my mid-morning break, and then I would put on my full-time sales roles hat and do sales for the other company that I worked for the better part of the handful of hours. I'd try to sneak some marketing time in there to help grow the business, and then I would train in the afternoon. So the effort was high and the margin was low. I was literally burning the candles at both ends. I joke to my clients to this day and my team, I pitched a tent in the corner. I didn't really do that, but it felt like that at times, that I was almost living at the facility. So I want to kind of paint the picture that, it was an exciting time, but it was also a very challenging time and nerve-wracking time, especially when skill set was low, when clients were low, when revenue was low, passion was high, but I was kind of getting to a burnout phase within 6 months in. And it occurred to me, and Tatiana and I were dialoguing in the back end, what if we could streamline our onboarding process way better to save time for ourselves, but also to offer a better client experience. So that way, when clients reach out to us and they want want to try our program, they would have an onboarding orientation video to help guide them and better set their expectations to improve the client experience. So that's what we decided to do. And this is early 2013. So I'm sure there was editing software, but back in the day, finance was really low. So, didn't have a lot of extra money on frivolous things. My wife, Tatiana, had this small little, if you're watching this video, tiny little Canon camera, no editing capability. It didn't have my man Pablo, who's shooting this particular podcast and all these podcasts with me to, put on the magic and all that, literally bare bones. And because we didn't have any editing software, I had to hit as the talking head of the video, the 2-minute video unedited. So I had to hit it in one clean take. And in the grand scheme of things, with a few different lines, it wasn't that complicated, especially as I look back now and I can, hop on video and, shoot a half-an-hour podcast or jump on stage. But looking back, while it seems trivial now, it didn't seem trivial at the time. And I didn't have that skill set either, because it's all fun and games until the camera goes on and the nerves start kicking as well. So off we went trying to record this orientation video, and one take turned into two to three, and before you know it, 15 minutes go by and cannot hit a clean take. Then 30 minutes go by and cannot hit a clean take. And at this point, I'm getting a little frustrated, also knowing that my clients are going to be coming in about 45 minutes time, because the afternoon sessions, are about to start. And again, I was burning the candle at both ends. The time margin I had was very, very little. So on we went. I start vocalizing my frustration to Tatiana. I'm like, oh, am I ever going to get this? And making comments like this. So 30 minutes turns into 40 minutes. 40 minutes turns into 50 minutes. And I still cannot hit this freaking line. And by this time, clients are coming in about 15, 20 minutes. I'm kind of getting definitely more energetic and bolsterous and frustrated for sure. And it got to the point where this is literally the last 5-minute window. So I had a few takes left. So we start firing away. And literally the last take, Tatiana, recharges the camera. This is it. I go on, I start hitting my lines, and I was almost to the very end, and I lost it at the very end. The last 15 seconds, I swallowed some words. I got, discombobulated, went off track, and I missed the line again. And at this point, in like an emotional outburst and freaking rage, a negative rage, not like a positive rage, which I'm just firing off with you right now, I go off the handle. I start yelling and screaming, and I get up, and I'm just so frustrated. It felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. Again, looking back in hindsight, such a trivial bonehead moon in the time. But I get up, and I just freaking kick the door at the base of the door. And it was a cheap wooded door, kind of like an IKEA door. No knock on IKEA, but it wasn't very strong and sturdy. It removed some of the hinges, but most of the damage of the door was done at the base of the door, and I kicked it with my foot. And as you would imagine, my foot was throbbing, and this massive indentation in my door. Not the highest moment as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, while my wife is looking in horror thinking, who is this crazy man? So after a few minutes had went by and I started gaining my composure and I regained my cool, there's a lot of lessons to unpack from this particular story, but the two leadership lessons before we talk about emotional resilience and strategy, and strategies to increase your emotional resilience would be this. Number one, as a leader, whether a leader of yourself, whether a leader of your family, whether a leader of your clients or your community, you cannot lose your cool like that. No one respects a leader who's, can fly off the hinges at any particular period of time. So that was a huge learning lesson. The second leadership and learning lesson in that moment was this, that you need to harness your emotions. And as a business owner, you need to be able to make way more logical and data-driven decisions than you need to do emotional-driven decisions. And that was a classic example of me making an emotional outburst decision. And I see this, many times. And this is an extreme example. There's way more extreme examples, that I've seen, from other fitness business and entrepreneurs that I've coached over the last decade. But really what I've also learned from a leadership lens, from a successful entrepreneurship lens, the best owners, the best leaders make data-driven, logical decisions way more than emotional decisions. Hey there, my name is Bryce Henson, CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, and you might know me as the host of this podcast, but what you might not know is that I started my fitness business journey as a Fit Body location owner. And since 2012, I've been able to impact my community while creating financial freedom, both for myself and my family too. You see, by using Fit Body's proven business model, we give you all the support and guidance you need to be your own boss and build a business that aligns with your passion for fitness. And being we are the absolute best at launching and scaling our franchise partners gyms, we are now excited to announce our 100 member guarantee. Now you might be thinking, Bryce, what is that? Well, we are so confident that we'll launch your Fit Body Bootcamp location with well over 100 paying members from day one on your grand opening that if we don't, we'll run your marketing till we do. That's how confident we are in our ability to support you and guide you through this process. So if you're interested in creating more income through impact, click the link somewhere around this video to apply. So those are a couple takeaways or leadership lessons built in that story, but really the story was really about emotional resilience and having emotional resilience, not flying off the handle, and because of that, very, very important. I share that story, but also most importantly to you, share some strategies that you can develop and increase your emotional resilience. So I have 5 big takeaways that I want to share with you. The first is, it's actually a physiological, and this is why I love fitness. But if you want to increase your ability to handle tough situations, handle emotionally driven situations, you got to focus on your fitness. There is no doubt in my mind, physiologically, but also from a leadership and emotional perspective, I am a way better leader because I work out, because I lift weights, because I run, I do cardio training, I do my cold plunge therapy. In fact, I was watching a podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman, who has a huge following. He's a doctor in Northern California, studies the brain, studies neurons in the brain, if I can say that correctly, and how they're all connected. And what he discovered a while back on one of his episodes is the amygdala, which is this small little walnut size object in your brain, which is really designed or in charge of your emotions, fear, anger, greed, all these emotions that we feel on a day-to-day basis. It is shown through research by working out, by doing cold plunges, by subjecting yourself to physical stress, the amygdala fires less frequently, which means you feel better, when you work out. You feel better when you take care of yourself. The opposite is also true. So if you're struggling with your emotional resilience quotient, I would highly encourage you to take a look at your fitness game. Are you getting enough strength training? Are you getting enough cardio training? Are you doing things like, maybe taking a cold shower a few times a week to really, from a physiological perspective, put your body in a mind in a state where you can handle things way more cool, calm, and collected. So that is lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is the fact it's a mindset framework, but it's understanding that repetition is the mother of skill. The more times you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, stressful situations, the better you're going to handle this. And if you think from a physicality perspective, look at someone with six-pack abs. They got six-pack abs not by sitting on the couch taking the easy street. They got six-pack abs by putting in the work, by putting themselves in uncomfortable situations in their nutrition protocol, by sculpting their body at the gym, at workouts, doing circuit training, whatever the case may be. So you have to understand that as you put your body through more stress, your body will adapt and get better. This also goes when you're public speaking or addressing an audience or on a Facebook Live or whatever the case may be, running a meeting or having a tough conversation, with your team. These are all things that will increase your ability to adapt and really increase your emotional resilience mechanism, both from a physicality perspective, but also from an emotional perspective. So understand, to put a bow on lesson number 2 or takeaway number 2, is you will get better with more repetition. Okay, so that is a big value there. Strategy number 3 to increase your emotional resilience is developing your self-awareness. And there's many ways you can do this, but the one biggest way to do this is through asking for feedback. And when you ask for feedback, the amygdala, which I just talked about, actually fires. Your body thinks, or your physiology thinks, that's fight or flight. Someone's attacking you. We're all wired this way, no matter how great the leader is. The good news, though, as I just mentioned in bullet point number 2, repetition is the mother of skill. As you go through these situations, you'll definitely get better for sure. But this in mind, when you ask for direct feedback, it creates more awareness, and it also stings in the moment, especially when you're given critical feedback. But when you're you're given critical feedback and you feel that sting, you're better able to process that in the future. One other example of doing this is our business operates here at Fit Body Bootcamp headquarters. We operate, our operating system is called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It was developed by a gentleman named Gino Wickman. And we have an implementer, Brian, who's been on this podcast. I would highly encourage you to check out that from a process framework perspective. But he does this exercise with our leadership team at our annual meeting every year in January, just as the annual or the year kicks off. And it was designed from a gentleman named Robert Lencioni, who wrote a book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it's an awesome book. And the book, in the exercise that Brian does is an exercise of feedback. So we go around the room, we share personal stories about ourselves. We also share with each individual leadership team member one thing that we admire about this person, okay? That's a form of feedback. And that's easy feedback to accept, although sometimes that can also be uncomfortable too, going through this exercise a few times. But way more uncomfortable than that is the opportunity for improvement. And every single leader that Brian facilitates this particular exercise is in charge and owns and provides feedback to every single person in the group. What's one thing that each individual person needs to start or stop doing because right now it's hurting them and it's hurting the company? And that critical feedback is really hard to hear in the moment, but as you hear that more, as you go through more exercises where you're going to be able to be given more awareness, your emotional resilience will increase because your body is used to overcoming these obstacles. So develop your awareness, ask for feedback. This will definitely increase your ability to overcome your emotional, deficiencies, if you will. Number 4, and I guess my last 2 are more mindset than anything, but this is a framework that I use to understand and to really prep myself, especially when things go off the handle or I get frustrated, because let's face it, when I'm running a big international fitness organization, my day-to-day life is literally just being able to internally manage my emotions. I go from a meeting where I'm getting great news, I go to a meeting where I have to give tough news or I get tough news. And it's like an emotional roller coaster. And many times, these particular situations that I'm involved in and that you will be involved in when you get your entrepreneur business off the ground is very pressure-ridden situations. But I take a step back from a mindset lens and I realize that pressure, Bryce, is a privilege. And right now I look at this and I'm shooting this video, okay, on a Friday afternoon. I'm in the podcast studio. I have my marketing team here. I have my media team here. There's a bunch of blinding lights. I can't even see the media team. I'm staring at the abyss right now, and it just feels like there's a lot of pressure on me, okay, to perform. And there is. The good news, though, as we learn in takeaway number 2, that repetition is the mother of skill. I've gotten way better at doing this, and I'll continue to get better doing this, which is a huge takeaway for you. But I also reframe my mind, realizing that I'm going to feel the pressure, I'm going to feel the anxiety, but pressure is a privilege, and there's going to be many times, there has been and there will be in my life, where I look back at these quote-unquote pressure-filled situations and shoot, I wish I could get back in there because that's an opportunity to learn, to grow, to serve, to add value to others. So it's a mindset frame, but realize when you're going through a stressful situation, when you're going through an emotional-ridden situation, like I was when I was kicking the freaking door like a lunatic, I should have reframed my mind in that period of time, realizing pressure is a privilege. I'm actually getting better right now. I'm developing my skill on video, my skill to communicate that's going to serve me later in the day, AKA it's serving me right now and serving you in the process. So that's a really, really important takeaway to understand, a mental switch to really put a bow on number 4. And my last big emotional resilience strategy or takeaway, bullet point number 5, is realizing that you are human just like me, and we are both going to mess up. We're both going to get in situations pressure-ridden, and you might have an emotional outburst. Now, I'll share a story with you. Just happened a month ago, and I was in a meeting, and my marketing team, or one of the gentlemen in the marketing team, provided some good content and good feedback. And there was a lot of things logistically, or I guess from a vision perspective, I provided some good coaching, but I realized in the moment I kind of got a little animated. I got a little fired up, probably more than I should have in that particular moment. And did I fly off the handle and kick a door? No, I didn't. That's the good news. I've learned to become a much stronger leader over the years, but I got a little bit more animated than I probably should have in hindsight. The emotions were a little high. And after this, I debriefed with my team, and I went through the details of that particular call, and I took ownership of, my, I guess, quote unquote, emotional, the increase in emotion that I showed in that period of time. And when I took ownership in that moment, one, it gave me a lot of clarity. It was like a burden had lifted. And also, two, that my response from my team, this individual, was very, very positive. And I realized that, hey, we're all on a growth path. We need to proactively do things that are going to put us in a better situation to grow, to learn, and to, make sure that we can handle our emotions way better, more cool, calm, and collected. But there's still going to be some times where we mess up, we make an error, and that's okay as long as you own it, you apologize for it, you course correct, and then onward you go. So, my friends, mission critical. This is absolutely mission critical to your success, is having strong emotional intelligence. And again, I want to just reiterate this point. From my lens, having nearly 20 years of experience in the professional world, having a few years experience of a CEO of an international fitness franchise, over, close to 15 years of experience being a CEO of my business, what I've learned for sure is that the higher the rung you climb, the more pressure, the more emotion is going to be involved in your situation. And this is why it is so critical, if you want to be respected, if you want to respect yourself first and foremost, but if you want to also be respected by your family, your team, your community, you need to focus on becoming a better leader and overcoming your emotions and really developing more emotional resilience in the process. So I hope you got a ton of value today. If you did, I got one ask for you: to go ahead and like this video, and that would mean a lot for us, and that would support this channel. And remember, no one is coming to save you. You must save yourself, and the time is now. Thanks, and see you in the next episode.